What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of the whole build of the Genesis from stock 3.8 to 6.2 liter supercharged. So this episode, I'm gonna be covering the LSA Supercharger and the problems with it. Why once upon a time they were so cheap, and the price is starting to rise, but it's still one of the cheapest power adders for any platform. Why I love it. We're gonna do a rebuild, tools needed, things of that nature. So hold on for that. Let me show you guys. I cleaned up, I know the garage was a mess last time. I cleaned it up a little bit. I got a bunch of new parts. After this video, I might even drop 2 videos tonight, but after this video, maybe tomorrow, I don't know, I'm gonna do the Brembo install. I gotta get this clutch rebuilt. I got a lifetime supply of oil. I gotta do the front end swap, so parts are coming in. All these parts came off of my first LS Swap Genesis. Chris had all the stuff left over from the part out, and I tossed him a couple bucks to buy it all. So, I gotta get these pistons pulled. So yeah, build's moving along, but for now, the focus of this video is the supercharger. Now, before I start, I want to say one more thing. I appreciate all the feedback, everything. Everybody's been telling me I got to fill the space more wisely. I got to explain things more. I got to slow it down. I don't have to take everything in one shot. I can break the video up, make sure I know what I'm talking about and it makes sense to you guys, because, people who are familiar with the LS may have picked up on things I was saying, but if you aren't, like most Genesis owners aren't, then you're not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. So from this moment forward, I'm going to make it a point to break everything down in layman's and give my experiences, why I like things, what should be taken apart while I'm in there, etc., etc. So you guys be patient with me. Every video I strive to make better and better. So let's get started. So like I said, we're doing a rebuild. I'll get to the why we need a rebuild later. I'll show you guys later, but there are several kinds of solid isolators because the spring-loaded isolator from the factory went bad, as is the case with most of these. So stick to Eaton, because ZZP, the LPE, Metco, they have one Delrin thicker. It's much thicker, and usually the tolerances aren't, to spec, and sometimes it rattles until warm. So just be mindful of that. I recommend you get the Eaton, and this says LPE. They had an older model. This is Eaton, a genuine Eaton, but Lingenfelter likes to rebrand things and resell them. So take a look at this. I'll post a link in the description so you guys know what to be grabbing. So the supercharger takes 6 ounces of oil. Now I've heard people say, it takes more, it takes less. Sometimes they couldn't get much oil out, but what I am going to do is take my basic, Starbucks cup, clear, and try to get as much oil out as possible and measure the oil and put back in what was taken out, because I'm sure this is a low mile blower because it has a solid isolator, and they fail fairly quickly. So oil and everything should all be good, but I'm just gonna change it while I'm here and for content. So you're gonna need a pry bar and just 10 millimeter on an extension. This one fit. My thicker one didn't fit right here, so. And syringe, of course. I'm gonna be attacking it from back here. Moving on. So here we have atmosphere pressure sensor. It's not a true map. There's a hole at the bottom, so it's reading off the atmosphere. The OEM map sensor goes here. But what I may do is use a 3.5 bar or 3 bar. I think it's 2.5 or 3 bar sensor, and hook it up off one of these vacuum lines to read off the lid, and put a boost gauge here. That's what I usually do. And then you have your IAT sensor here. Coolant goes in here, obviously. Well, I won't say obviously because some of you guys may not know, but the coolant goes in and out here. This is your bypass valve. There's like a little throttle body inside that, when you're cruising or, you're decelerating, it opens up to vent everything, so it's not overheating. So you're not always in boost, This isn't needed on swaps. I've used it one time because I had a what is it? Not an E38. I can't remember the name of the computer. But for the OEM computer, and if you get the standalone harness for that computer, you can use this. But, you know, guys just like to go manual and affix this the right way. I believe you vent this port to the atmosphere, keep this plugged in right here. But I'll do that in a separate video for more clarification. I'm just spitballing right now. Obviously, we have the upper pulley, and you can hear this is what is attached to the rotors. And that's what failed. That's how you know it failed. But yeah, this is a CTSV lid. You probably are wondering why it's not black like all the rest of them I used. So about this area of the Genesis I had to end up cutting, and it was just a small portion. I know I cut a big portion, but I overcut because I know Bobby was gonna fix it. But it was only a small portion that fit because the Z01 lid sits a bit higher. The CTSV lid has a smaller profile up front, so I may be able to get it to fit under the hood of the swap. And you know, the Z01 lid, the coolant ports are up front. So that's the only difference. The Z01 lid is taller up front, and in the back it's the same size. So I know the back will clear, hopefully the front clears. Now because the coolant is routed in the back and it'll be sitting maybe in this area, what my plan is to do is to relocate the battery to the trunk and put a decent sized ice tank right here. And you know, just route it simply right there, and then route the rest of the lines along here up to the heat exchanger, which I don't know if you guys can see it, but the heat exchanger's over there. But yeah, moving on. So this is the CTSV lid, the CTSV brick. And you know, at stock boost levels, these like to collapse inward on themselves, and it'll choke up the coolant side. You'll run low coolant. It'll overheat because, you know, it's not getting the flow of coolant's not there, and some of them even leaked. If you look it up, some people reported coolant leaking in that, and obviously you know, compressed air. You don't want water going into your combustion chamber. That can cause all kind of problems. So this fortunately has been reinforced already. So that, you know, saved me the trouble of doing it myself. The brick looks like it's in great condition. It's just dirty, it's just oily. You know, maybe the last owner didn't run a catch can, or maybe they did run a catch can, but you know, a little bit of oil's gonna get in there unless you completely vent to the atmosphere. So yeah, this is a CTSV lid. The Z01 lid is more expensive. I mean, you can buy those new for around 600 bucks, give or take a few bucks. Used maybe 500. These I see going for 350 to 450. So people don't value these as much, but and I don't. I think the Z01 looks better, but the power difference is negligible between the two. They say Z01 should make a little bit more power, but you know, real world dyno test, the tuner will tell you it's negligible. So, yep, this is all set. I'm gonna leave this as is. The only thing I may do is put AN fittings here, have them welded in. So it's just a clean braided line going over, and I will paint this black. So, and let me set this bad boy down. Now, like I was saying before, the isolator, you guys can hear it. You can hear the play. So if I hold this here, look, it's not moving, but I can move this. Now what that was for is, I guess GM's way of thinking is, it'll, with a spring-loaded isolator, it'll take some of the pressure off the snout and the whole system, you know, longevity type deal, quietness maybe, but it failed. The isolator fails, and it starts digging into the snout. So, you know, we're doing this real time. Hopefully when I pull this apart, it's not too beat up in there, because, you know, I'm a send it kind of guy, I'm cheap. And one last thing I'm gonna show you guys before I tear this thing apart. Let me get this bad boy sitting upright. LSA heads, you know, because it's an LSA engine. I know this is an LSA Supercharger, but the LSA 6.2, way lower compression, piston oil squirters, forged engine. So there's the LSA engine, you know, separate. I'm putting on an L92 with 823 heads. So anybody else, if you're not using LSA heads, you'll have to grind this bad boy down or pop them out, pull it out somehow. What I usually do is just take a grinder, and I'm messy with it. I just grind it right down, it comes right out. So don't forget to do that, guys. And the gaskets are riveted in and they don't look bad. So I'm just gonna run them. I'm gonna clean them up and run them. But you know, that's some of the points. So boom, 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 and boom. And then what I gotta do with the pry bar is pry up against this and pop it right off. So let's get into it. Like I said, it's a 10 millimeter. Just pop that bad down. Get it right out. Now I have done this before with the blower, and that blower, it was really hard to get open, so I had to use a pry bar. Now let me back up real quick. I've been trying to crank on this thing, but you gotta remove this one and this one here. Sometimes, man, I try to spitball and freeball, and you know, sometimes you gotta slow down, guys. So pardon me. Now let's get this thing off. There you go. This one was not too bad at all. Oh. And you can see what I was talking about. Now this is the throttle body I was talking about. It's vacuum. It works by vacuum. Obviously when you're on the boost, it's closed, but when you're cruising and decelerating, it opens up. But I'll just show you guys, it opens up and closes. Now, a lot of people have issues with I don't know if you guys can see the light around there, but I'm gonna have to adjust this to see less light, because a lot of people have issues with boost leak because it's shut, but once you get over 7, 8, 9 pounds, it's gonna want to force its way through where you can see light. I don't know if you guys were able to see that small little test right there of light getting through, but I could see it clear, so I'm gonna have to adjust this. And this is what I was talking about. Look, the spring-loaded isolator right here. It's no good, it's garbage. And yeah, this thing's been sitting, this thing is trash. And you can see where it's been eaten into it. You can feel this clear as day. But it doesn't look too bad at all. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab a rag and just wipe this down real quick so it's clean. And I'm gonna slap the other one back on. And we're gonna go from there. You can see the difference between the two. Solid, no spring. Spring loaded. So I guess in theory, GM, it sounded good, you know, to dampen the forces of you just slamming wide open throttle. But, you know, at idle, they're rattle like marbles, you know. So, like I said, I'm gonna go wipe this down and we'll continue the video. So just wiping this thing down because it's all rusty and nasty. And while we're here, this is the stock pulley, man. And people like to put smaller ones on here to obviously spin the rotors, you know, faster. And, you know, they do a lower as well to turn the boost up. But I'm a guy, I'm simple, man. I like 7 pounds of boost, 6, 7 pounds of boost. That's an extra 100 and something horses, you know, with a stock LS9 cam. I don't do big cams anymore because, you know, you like to buck at idle, you do a bunch of bucking. That's the shit people don't talk about with cams. They say, oh, you can tune it out, but you can't tune it all out. You're gonna be bucking at parking lots. If your RPMs are too low when you're cruising, you're gonna feel it lugging along. You're gonna be lugging the engine. So I like factory, oh, and the stink at idle. I don't like it, so I like factory boost. You don't have to worry about heat issues. I put a big old heat exchanger on, so Even in the summer when I do a run, I do a IAT, shoot up about 20 degrees over ambient, and then it goes right back down when I'm done. So, you know, that's why you always see me with 7 pounds, and depending on the intake, like the GTO, that was about 600 horses. The you see it just slides right in, snug, you know, not moving at all. And that's the problem with the other ones. They just have a slight play in them. So, you know, when it's cold and you turn it on, it sounds like marbles a little bit, and then when it heats up, the sound goes away. But, yep, there you go. Now, what I need to do now is just clean this down. I should have stopped and got some brake clean, but you got to clean this down, take a razor to it, clean it off. I'm probably gonna do that off camera, knock it out real quick, and then take some RTV red. You know, get the 650 intermittent, but this won't get to that level. And just, you know, go ahead and seal everything up. Well, let's just clean this down, clean everything out of there. Go ahead and seal this bad boy up, and then slap it back on. But we're gonna do that in another part of the video. What I'm gonna do now is work on the oil. So this is a T30. It loosely fits in here, but it's good enough. There we go. Like I said, I don't know, you know, I don't know how much is gonna come out, but whatever amount comes out, you know, that's what I'm gonna put back in. So I'm just gonna. And like I said, this shouldn't have more than 20, 30,000 miles on it, maybe 10,000. And what GM does is they elected to just replace the blower. They didn't want to just do what I just did. I don't know if for liability issues or what, but they replaced them all. And what happens is they allow the employees to buy them back. So they buy them back, and I remember I bought one for $250 one time. But they buy them back for $250. No, I bought one for $500 one time. Fixed it, flipped it, sold it. I had 2 at one time. Nobody wanted one when I bought it. I tried to hook up the GENUINE Coupe community and swap GCs. Nobody wanted one. So what happens is they flip them, but they sell them for $800. Like back in like 2015-ish, 2016 when I started, they were around $800. You know, without being fixed. Fixed maybe $1,000. Then it crept up to $1,200, then $1,400. I mean, you can buy them rebuilt from ZZP for $1,200, you know, not including shipping. So now it seems like the going rate for cores, which with the bad solid isolator, it seems like the going rate now is about $1,400. I paid $2,300 for all this, and it sucks, but it was local. I figured $1,400 for this, about $400 for that, and add $100 to get it reinforced. So maybe I overpaid by $300. So it didn't bother me. I'd have to worry about shipping. I'd have to worry about getting scammed. None of that. So, you know, that's why these at one time were so cheap, and they are still cheap. You pay $2,000. You pay $500 for fueling, upgrade your, depending on how crazy you want to get with boost. Get a heat exchanger, another $500, and boom, about $3,500. You have an extra 120 something horses, just like that. So, man, this stuff stinks badly. So, I don't know if I'm gonna go crazy with it. As you can see, look, the oil's clean. I didn't even have to do this, but while it's out, I'm just gonna measure this. Like I said, some people may be frowning at this. Like, what the hell are you doing? So I would say this is just under 2 ounces. So that's what I'm gonna put back in. That line is just under 2 ounces. So, know, this is pretty much, you know, 100,000 mile. You know, that's why they're superior to all the other superchargers. I mean, if you're going for longevity, you know, because they're built to last. So, you know, I'm not gonna have much issues. I'll go about here. Now these do have a vent on it. If you overfill it, it should purge it out. So I'm just gonna fill this bad boy up. I'm just gonna replace whatever came out. Call it a day. A little bit leaked out. I'm gonna be anal about that. Put that right back in. Boom, there we go. Oil changed. Now, I do not know the foot-pounds on this, but it wasn't very hard to take off, so I'm not gonna go crazy with it. There we go. Just the ugga-dugga on it, and we're good. So now, what needs to be done is to clean this, add a layer. I'm gonna add it all around, slap it back together. So, and you can see it just glides right off. So I'm getting most of this crap off. Just be gentle not to nick anything up. Now I'm not gonna sit here and make you guys sit through all this, so you get the drift. And once you get all the gasket material off, go ahead and just spray this down with brake cleaner or whatever you want to do, and just, you know, agitate everything, get everything cleaned down, because you want a good surface when you lay this stuff down. So, all right, so this is what it should look like. Mine, look at this disaster, man. So apparently about this region was kind of hardened, so I had to stick this in there, get it going. It popped on this side, so it's leaking everywhere. This is no good. This was all stopped up, so that's my excuse for my finesse being garbage. But as you guys can see, this is what it looks like. And I left some gasket. You can see the gasket around there. So I'm just gonna scrape that out, and then I am going to line it up. I know it was kind of shitty for me to line up last time, so I'm gonna drop that bad boy in there. There we go, guys. Now, because I slag so much, what I'm gonna end up doing is, when everything dries, I'm just gonna peel off the excess. You can see a little bit in there. You know, I know, guys, sloppy job, but hey, that's what I had to work with. I figured too much was better than not enough. So, but all you really need is like a thin line just going all around. Make sure everything's covered so there's no leaks, and you're good to go. So right now, next step would be is just to drop the bolts in, get them hand tight, let it dry for a while, and then go ahead and tighten them down. So like I said, I'm gonna just hand jammy these in there and let it dry for a little bit. All right, so I'll let this dry for a minute or two before I hit it with the torque wrench. Now we'll need 20 foot-pounds. This is what the manufacturer specified, so nothing crazy, 20 foot-pounds when this is dry. So like I said, I have this hand tightened and I'm just gonna let this dry for an hour. You know, I have my timer set, my beautiful daughter, but I have my timer set. There you go, for an hour. So when that goes, I'm gonna grab my old trusty torque wrench and hit all 6 bolts with 20 foot-pounds of torque. Make sure it's a cinch down, but you guys don't need me to show you that. I mean, you guys can handle it from here. But what I did want to show you is, if you look here and here, this is how you make sure everything's good. Ignore the squeaking. The squeaking is the coffee table itself. It's not the supercharger. So it spins freely, nothing's binding, and there's no play at all. It's just one-to-one. And you can look at the quality of the rotors. They're not too bad. I've seen a lot worse, but this is definitely the worst I've had. And this isn't an indication that something wrong at all. Like it's literally only, you know, check for play, make sure nothing's binding, make sure nothing's turning slow. It's just all free. But if these were a lot worse than they are, they're all chipped up and beat up, it looks like just the paint's coming off, then I would send it in for service to get you know, the bearings done and the lobes repainted. But like I said, this is no cause for concern at all. I'll just clean this bad boy down, get a new gasket so it'll seal to the lid, and there we go. So that should do it, man. I think I covered everything. Any mistakes I've made, I should just post them right in after I say something crazy. So hopefully everything's clear and concise, guys. Hopefully your supercharger knowledge is a little better, and if you need to do this, this was a good write-up for you. So yeah, next video you guys should have, Brembo should be going on the car, and shortly after that, seats should be coming out, door panels coming out, cutting the center, pulling the engine. But before all of that, today I'm picking up some bumpers, front and rear, and should drop everything off to Bobby. Hopefully he can get the rear bumper fixed, and I bring it back and just, you know, start tearing this thing apart. I'm gonna try to drop 3 or 4 videos a week, hopefully at least 1 a week, and have something on my build thread every day. So thank you guys for sticking with me. Keep the comments, questions, concerns going. You guys are making me better. I know a lot of my boys were teasing me about blurry camera and you know, sounding crazy, but like I said, I'm gonna try to slow things down, break the videos up, not try to do everything in one shot and freestyle everything. So you guys take it easy.